Village of Rhinebeck Planning Board meeting for September 15, 2020 to order. The first order of business is 6384 Mill Street, which is the hub, I believe a proposed 9-room hotel and commercial space on Route 9. So we can turn on the mics, we can get going with the discussion on that.
Everyone is here. I don't know who's going to start. Victoria?
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Guys.
Victoria Polidoro. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I'm here tonight with Warren Temple Smith, the architect, and Christian Paggi from Paggi Engineering, the engineer. I think Christian's going to start tonight to walk you through some of the site plan changes.
Hi guys, Christian Paggi here. I'm just pulling up the site plan. Is that something that I'll be sharing from my end, or will be shared on your end, Ryan?
It is up to you, Christian, whichever is easiest for you.
All right, why don't I just pull it up?
Now, Christian, did you get a chance to look at Time Bond's review?
No.
I was just briefly skimming through it just now. I didn't get a chance to review the whole thing, but I was going through it, and it seemed like a lot of the comments were just Ty and Bond getting kind of familiar with the project. There were certain things that were addressed in the letter that had already been points of discussion with the planning board in meetings past. So, which was fine. There was nothing too groundbreaking in the comment letter as far as shocking on my end. I thought that everything in there was very fair, and I don't have an issue with responding to all those comments. Most of them seem to be technical, and really just making a checklist of things that need to be buttoned up prior to any sort of approval. And
the couple of questions that I noticed in the letter was that they commented on a turning radius for the fire department that should be shown somewhere. And I had a question that, did Frontier agree that, the building for the visitor center is now mostly on Frontier's property, just a little bit on yours, and you're going to slide it south and put a new sidewalk in, and you're going to take the transformer and pop it on the other side of the building behind the visitor center. Is that clear with Central Hudson? Has that been cleared with Frontier? So those are a couple of my questions. And then of course my other last comment, which I want to know about, was the easement, the letter from Frontier that said which came back weeks ago, they don't care to get involved in anything at the current time. So is that easement still valid? Is everything okay with both of you guys entering on the south and both of you guys leaving on the north?
I mean, David, I know Christian probably has some type of format. I mean, and we received Time Bond's review at the 11th hour.
Right, we did.
So, I mean, it wouldn't be fair for him to try to pin him down on each item, but I don't know. You want to just go ahead, Christian, and because at some point there are a lot of bullet points here in this review that I believe that the planning board is primarily concerned about, and I don't know if your presentation is going to address these. So that's why I asked if you looked at it, because there are, I mean, I'd say just the first 5 or 6 are things that we were going to ask tonight.
I didn't mean to interrupt him. These were the comments I was going to make a week or two ago.
Oh, okay. Right.
That I was concerned about the Frontier letter and Mr. Wallace, and the tourism shed and the transformer and the sidewalk, is that okay with Central Hudson? Those are my concerns. The rest of the stuff is a lot of technical stuff, which mostly is Mr. Fenton's issue.
These are good questions, Mr. Miller, Chairman Miller. So what we can do, and this can be done through the attorneys, is that could be made part of the conditional site plan approval. Should you get to that point, you're not
Could you
obviously
speak a little
not
bit
ready.
louder,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Craig,
Yep.
please?
Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, what I was trying to say is that the concerns with legal, such as sufficiency of easements, they can be dealt with at the conditional approval stage, and they can be made a part of the conditional approval down the road when you're ready. So, to move the application forward, that's basically where we're at this particular point in time. Whether or not this is application ready, site plan application ready. And it appears, you'll hear from, Christian Paggi, but I think based on our conversation yesterday, that was, really the threshold issue that you're going to be asked to consider tonight.
yeah. Tonight, I think, is just about going over the plans and seeing if we can establish a public hearing for October.
Correct.
Okay. So, and I think that we could probably touch on a lot of the questions that were just brought up and any other questions that you guys have as we move through it. So, I'll just briefly go through what changes have been made, and then I'll touch on some of the things that Chairman Miller just brought up about those concerns with Frontier and with Central Hudson and all of those. So I guess the good place to start is just to let you guys know, I mean, you had seen the letter that we'd submitted kind of outlining the meeting that I had on site with both John Fenton and the fire chief, where they were actually able to drive the ladder truck into the south side, the south entrance of the site of the Frontier property, through into the subject property and around the proposed building. They had to do an extra maneuver. They had to back up and do an extra maneuver to clear the building. But with that one extra maneuver, there was plenty of clearance, and both the fire chief and John agreed that that type of layout would be sufficient for a fire response. They did need to traverse over what will be a patio area. So those are going to be concrete pavers in the rear of the building. And we'll provide details of those to show that they can withstand H20 loading. So previously our plans did show a vehicle circulation plan that showed both garbage truck and a fire truck, two separate circulation movements. I removed those from this plan. One reason because we were out and did the fire truck turning physically in the site with a truck, but I can certainly add that to the plan and just show basically the path that was that they accomplished. And then the garbage truck movement was removed because of previously we were showing a dumpster in this northwest corner of the property. And then at the previous meeting that we were at, there was some concern with that location from both the public and from the board. And it was recommended that we keep the dumpster in its existing location, which is in this landscaped island over here to the east. And so we made that revision. We were able to add 2 parking spaces along this northerly property line. We eliminated 1 parking space over here on the southeast side, and are keeping the dumpster in that island location. So the the garbage truck will be basically maneuvering how they are doing it currently and going through the site. So there's really no change. But again, I can add those turning movements to the plan if that's something that would be helpful to the board or to the consultants or to the public. So,
Can I ask a quick question?
sure.
Is
Absolutely.
there language in the easement that, or any way of actually designating where the easement is so that Frontier or a future property owner doesn't end up, in essence, tightening up the space that's there? Do we know how wide the easement is, and is that all plotted out so that?
This is Victoria speaking.
Okay.
The easement is not very specific as to the location, and Frontier has indicated that it doesn't want to make any changes to the easement. And your attorney, Mr. Wallace, has reviewed the documents, and he can confirm.
Okay, my concern would be that if the access is predicated on the fire truck being able to get in there, and Frontier or a future property owner does something there that constricts the ability of the fire truck to get in there, that we could end up with some liability issues.
Well, that easement will trump their proposal. I'm assuming they would have to work around.
Well,
And
right, but
already-
the easement isn't defined.
Oh, right. So we should define it.
Well, the easement is, I think it's marked out on the map. It's referred to. You can't
It's
really
kind of
see
vague.
it. Yeah.
The easement that I'm not sure. So there is an easement shown here on the map, this gray shaded area, and that's actually a utility easement, a sewer
Right.
easement.
Right.
He's
What I'm
talking
talking
about,
about is the easement in terms of the access for driving. The easement that shows there is for the sewer line.
Okay.
Right.
So
it's a mutual easement and right of way, and it refers to the map that was created when the land was subdivided. So it's my opinion that any changes to the entryway would require a modification to the easement, which is why we approached them in the first place.
okay.
And
I'm
DOT.
I'm just bringing it up in terms of, because the turning radius, it works, provided that Frontier, or again, a future owner of that property, doesn't do something.
If they do something, Mr. Decker, they would have to come before the planning board for a site plan modification.
Right, but that's only if the easement is actually defines what they can or cannot do. Yes, no?
Well, I mean, they have, how this easement has been in place without interruption for, I don't know, I think it was since 1980s, Victoria?
Right, but there's never been any
Yeah,
development on that
1985.
property other than the chamber building
True.
that would constrict access or really.
That would be a civil matter, and
Okay,
Yeah.
we would take it to court if we needed to take it to court if there was an issue with them blocking access for the hotel. And I mean, we would be okay with you putting a note on the plans saying that, any changes to the easement, could trigger, further review, just because the easement, the access is important for my client as well. That's the
Right.
way into the property.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want anything to change.
I think the planning board just wants to verify with Craig and Victoria that this 40-year-old easement still works, is still in effect, and it's okay, for the new hotel to be built without, getting into problems with Frontier and traffic and so on.
I talked to Victoria about it, and I think that if the adequacy was ever challenged, and it affected the site plan, working mechanism of the site plan, that the applicant would have to resort to, possible civil litigation in Supreme Court. And if that occurred and it changed the site plan in any way, then an amendment, might come before this board in the future. But I think that would be a remote possibility.
Yeah.
And also Frontier couldn't change it without coming before this board
Right.
for
Correct.
approval for site plan.
Yep.
And I'll also, I mean, just anecdotally, Frontier apparently has a lot of cable and plant on the property. And so, you know, they've indicated that they don't expect to be leaving anytime soon.
Right. Yeah, and no one else has access, any reason to go back there other than the weekly dumpster pickup. You know, hopefully the fire department never has a reason to go back there. There's no other stores, no other businesses in the back there. So, you know, as long as the fire truck can make it through and the dumpster pickup can make it through, then there's no other deliveries or pickups in the back there that I can see.
No, I think that they had, the fire department though, John, if you want to touch upon that, they had other concerns.
I mean, well, it was, the primary concern was the tree that basically cascaded over the fence and came in contact with the vehicle when it made its turn. And so Victoria, with respect to pruning the tree, I believe that we have the legal right, or they have the legal right, or your applicant has the legal right to trim whatever is on his property.
In New York, a person has the right to trim a tree overhanging their property so long as it doesn't damage the tree. So the applicant has agreed as a condition of approval to trim any overhanging branches and keep them trimmed.
Okay, and that was the primary concern from the fire chief. Everything else appeared to be doable. Like Christian said, we're going to have a jump curb, those
Right.
pavers, so you can drive over them. But other than that, I think that was really the issue.
Well, we are going to have a formal curb, I mean, which doesn't exist now.
Yeah,
Along that patio area.
No, on the Route 9 sidewalk.
oh no, we're talking about the inside in the rear of the building.
Oh, where you drive over the patio.
Behind the
Right.
building.
Right.
And
It's
those,
going to be outlined by a curb, but it's going to be, they refer to it as a jump curb, where it's actually angled kind of like on a 45-degree angle, so the tires can get over it.
Right.
John, we might even make that just a flush curb,
Oh, okay.
you know,
Yep.
but the entrance, there will be a curb.
Okay, because it shows tree to be removed, and on the final plan, the tree has been removed, and there are 2 new street trees being planted.
Correct. So
And I think it should have a curb. It could be a mountable curb, but there should be some definition there so people don't cut that corner onto the patio or assume that they could double park there.
okay.
Under normal summer conditions, parking in the village is quite difficult. Not this summer, of course, but it's very hectic in the normal summers, and John is right. We should have some kind of a defined curb to let people know that you can't drive over the patio. We could keep interrupting Christian.
That's quite all right. We're hitting all the big issues. So what I'll do is I'll look to see if there's anything besides a curb that we could show as a barrier, either just a actual physical barrier around that patio area, or maybe just a visual indication. So a curb just seems like it might be it might be a little much in that area, but I'll propose something, and if it ends up being a curb, then that's fine too. But let's see. So in addition to those changes, I mentioned that we are moving the dumpster, or we've moved on the plan, the dumpster back to its current location, and revised the parking back here. I'm not sure. Can you guys see what I'm doing with the cursor? Are you following that? So when I'm pointing to things?
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I'm saying here and you guys have no idea what I'm talking about. So, so there's one less space in this area here. And what we've done is there's two existing light poles in this area. And previously I had proposed those to be moved to the property line so that they weren't interfering with these parking spaces. What we're showing now, and that was a concern of a few people at the last meeting. So just the fact that we're moving those poles to the property line. So what this is showing is keeping those poles in the same location that they're in now, not touching them. And what I'm just trying to show schematically is that there's enough room here for a car to be parked in front of that pole and still provide the required stall depth of 18 feet. So there's this theoretical line that runs in front of these poles that shows the 18-foot stall depth. So these will just be.
Can you double click a couple of times and zoom in on that a little bit?
Sounds good. Yeah, that's much better. I was squinting
Yes.
also. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for telling me to do that.
Well, it was a suggestion
hurting
of
my
one of our
eyes.
viewers.
Okay, so this is the area that I'm talking about. So this dashed line is just a theoretical line to demonstrate the 18-foot stall depth. So these will just be extra long stalls to accommodate those light pole locations, and there's still adequate backup aisle depth. 24 feet is required. So that's what I'm trying to demonstrate here. So all in all, we were actually able to gain one parking space by moving that dumpster.
Are you still able to get 9 by 18 on the
Yep.
north side?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you provide some sort of curb stop or a bollard or something by those light fixtures so they don't get hit by parkers?
Absolutely. Yep. I think there actually may be some curb stops there now, but some of them look like they are
Yeah, just
pushed into the woods or so I'll show some curb stops.
just for those spaces, yeah.
Okay. And with the last real change was because we are going to be widening this pavement area and kind of realigning this sidewalk here. I don't know if you can see, let's see how close I can get. Underneath, there's a light shaded, you can see the end of the sidewalk. That was where the sidewalk previously came out to. So we're just kind of cutting that off and creating this more uniform island to create this additional parking space. And there was a light pole. You can see it down here in the corner here. So that's just being moved to the center of this sidewalk. And that type of light pole is just it's similar to what is proposed on the existing light pole. That's not there anymore. Okay. It is it's more of like an antique lantern type post as opposed to a floodlight or anything like that. But it will provide some ambient lighting for these parking spaces and over here.
Christian, do you indicate the lumens?
So we.
It says relocated light pole. So if you're using the existing, we don't need the photometrics for it or anything. But if it's a new pole, we need some specs on it.
They are the existing poles, right?
They are the existing poles, and we did add a note just that all the existing pole fixtures will be shielded from adjacent properties. Just so if they aren't now, then those will be added.
But they're not proposing to change the fixtures from what are current.
Exactly.
Okay,
The only new lighting will be the building mounted light fixtures, and those are all going to be 40 watt. Is that correct, Warren?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Can you define them by lumens instead of watts? Since,
I believe John Clark, 600 lumens is what? Is that a 60 watt bulb or was that?
well, I think it's a 40 watt bulb is like 540 lumens or something.
yeah.
So if we could define it by lumens, it just makes it easier in terms of if the technology in terms of providing the light changes.
No problem. Yeah, try to keep it consistent for what you guys are used to
Right.
seeing. And
We
absolutely.
can
Given
get the
that-
specs for that. Yeah.
Given that the only lights proposed new are on the building, do we still need to provide a photometric plan?
I don't need a photometric plan. I just need to know, I have to have a pretty good idea in terms of that they're not going to cascade into adjacent properties, and that the bulbs are shielded.
And the
I
other
don't think there's a
plan,
need for a full photometric plan, but
I just want to make sure everyone else agrees because we can cross that off the list then.
Now, I agree that they don't need a photometric plan, or on the list of the engineer's letter, I don't think they need to put in 2-foot contours because the site is flat. So those are the two elements that I think the planning board should waive.
I agree.
Yeah, no, we all agree with that.
yeah, I agree on that too.
I'm fine with that.
I think the only question we had, and the reason we brought in the 2-foot contours, and maybe you guys can elaborate on it. There's no existing drainage issues in that existing parking lot or anything.
Might be with the building.
There is ponding in the very far back of that lot sometimes when it rains.
Yeah, I guess.
CVS. I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I guess that goes hand in hand with lack of utilities shown or drainage considerations, how we're tying in. So those two go together. As for lighting, if it's just on the building, I didn't see any lighting shown on the building except on the elevations. And if the planning board is okay with the lumens as opposed to a photometric plan for spillage, I think that should be fine for us.
The other thing also, Christian, is with respect to storm water, the village code allows you to tie in directly into our storm drains. And being that you're that close to our storm drains, it might be something you might want to look into.
Absolutely.
Because it gets very wet back there by CVS sometimes in a bad storm. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the bollards are underwater sort of on both sides of the back of that lot.
Are they shown on any of the site plan, the existence of the storm drains?
I don't think we have any now.
I don't think we have any back
The
there.
storm drains are in Route 9, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
There's
believe there are
actually-
any in the parking lot.
no.
No, okay.
The sewer hookup is in the parking lot.
Yep. There's a few sewer manholes.
Yeah, so that I guess that just goes hand in hand with our desire to understand what's going on drainage wise in the lot.
And John Fenton, it's okay that the patio is on top of the sewer easement, that corner of the patio. That
Yeah,
could
I
be-
mean, we have manhole locations. If for some reason there was a collapse, I mean, we dig up wherever we got to dig up. But We do have access. There's access points that they're not going to build over.
Okay. Christian, we keep interrupting you.
No problem at all. Speaking of the sewer that was just brought up, obviously we know that we need to coordinate with the sewer department with that tie-in, similar with water. And now that tie-in bond is involved, I assume that will be going through them as well. So should we be coordinating with tie-in bond or through the sewer department, or kind of just
So,
jointly?
yeah, so submit your plans. It'll go through me first.
Okay.
I'll bring in the chief water and chief sewer operator, have them take a look at it. With respect to handling the gallonage, that's not a problem. Your usage is not a problem. And then I'll run it past tie and bond just to make sure that it's planned out correctly.
Sounds good.
So Christian, the parking calculation on the first page, is everyone okay with that? That 16, 18 spaces, required 47, 37, so it's 10 are required to meet the minimum, and you're going to take 6 from across the street, which is something we're going to do with Howard Jacobs as well. But so I think we've recognized that the 6 spots across the street and the M&T driveway, the exit from the M&T Bank driveway. So you require 4 spaces for parking in lieu of fee. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep. So we need 18 spaces total to serve the proposed use. And that assumes a restaurant use.
Right.
So that's the more conservative view. With just retail, it was 16 spaces. So assuming that worst case scenario, we would need 18. Like you said, I had that parking allocation on page 1 and 2. We added this sheet with this submission showing the different businesses that are currently allocated parking within the subject property. So that leaves, like you said, 10 spaces that we are short based on the currently allocated spaces and what we need to serve the proposed use. So we are proposing 6 of the spaces across the street at the M&T Bank, at that entrance.
In the same location as the board previously approved spaces for the Amsterdam.
Right.
Exactly. So those are no longer being allocated to the Amsterdam and are available. So that's 6 spaces. So that leaves 4 outstanding spaces, and we will be pursuing the fee in lieu of parking for those 4 spaces that the applicant will be paying.
Okay.
Now that assumes that, according to option 2, it's half retail and half restaurant. So if the proposal comes in at a later date when you rent this thing out, that it's 100% a restaurant, then those numbers will go up and you may have to pay more parking in lieu.
Right. If there was approval for a restaurant, the application would have to come back in to do full restaurant on the full floor.
Yeah, the restaurant also requires a special permit, so that'd be another procedural step.
Correct.
Yeah, you got to also take in consideration, Victoria, that if you do go with a restaurant, now you got to get into a grease trap, and there's going to be some more infrastructure work. So just to kind of give you a heads up, once you got the ground open, doing what you're doing, if you think it's going to be a restaurant, a grease trap might be an ideal time to put it in. But
we can talk about it. I mean, again, I think we spoke about this at the last meeting. Right now, the intention is for full retail, but we wanted to provide some flexibility.
Also, if it's retail, there's a range in the parking requirements, and the numbers here on the sheet assume the the maximum range, there could be some discussion as about what a mid-range, so you may be, if a retail space goes in there, you may save some parking space on that end if you want to make your case to the planning board,
Thank you.
depending on what
Noted.
type of retail it is.
Ryan, can you make sure that gets in the minutes?
Yes, I was responding to another member of the public. Could someone repeat that?
Oh, no, nothing. I was just noting that we had provided spaces on the high end for retail, and that, you know, should a low parking retail use come in, we may be able to allocate more spaces to the other half of the building.
So
Okay, I'll make a note of that, yes.
for the members of the public who
There
are
aren't
watching,
more spaces to allocate because you're still doing the in lieu of.
Right, well, we would come back in and we would, you know, recalculate everything if need be.
Right, but there's no refund in terms of the in lieu of fee.
We understand that.
Right, okay, so it's kind of a moot point because the difference is reasonably subtle between the different levels of retail.
we're having some questions on the part of the members of the public. If everything goes okay tonight, we will be having a public hearing in October, and we will invite the public to open up their microphones and let them one at a time make comments or questions from the applicant. So, you know, it's good you're asking the questions now. Just think about them, hold on to them, and you'll be able to speak at next month's public hearing. Christian, we keep interrupting you.
Well, I think that pretty much summarizes the changes that we've made. One thing that I will note is I have been in touch with Central Hudson about the transformer being relocated. They were going to be having some internal meetings about that to make sure that the correct people on their side were going to be involved in that. And we're just pushing that ball with them. We're scheduled to have a follow-up this week after this meeting, and they're having their internal meeting, and we'll be scheduling a site visit. So I can include John or anybody else from the village if you'd like on an invitation to a site visit for that, if that would be helpful. But we are moving that ball along also.
So
Now
Christian,
we got to keep in mind though, we're making decisions on somebody else's property. We should get Victoria.
I can address that. Frontier has signed off on the plan, and I will make that more explicit. I've asked them for an updated letter. Frontier is actually the entity that asked for the welcome shed to be moved up instead of just over. That was at their request. And this Central Hudson transformer actually serves the Frontier building. So it was on the other property as a courtesy, and now it's being moved to serve the Frontier building. So we understand you want something more explicit from Frontier, and I'll work to get that.
Victoria, while you're at it, you had a letter dated June 5, 2020 to the board, and can you update that particular letter with respect to you know, the parking allocation, because it looks like it's changed.
Sure, I can do that.
There's one other change for the plans. The north side of the building now shows 9 air conditioning heater units in the walls. Is there any issue with that being right, facing the other property? I know there's a 20-foot driveway that is owned by the applicant. Is that any problem or issue, John Fenton, legally, or those air conditioners are okay to be there?
I'm sorry, David, repeat that.
There's 9 air conditioners on the new plan on the north side of the building, but it's facing 20 or so feet of property that the applicant owns. So,
Oh, no. It's if it was something like what Tim Decker mentioned, and it was on the property line, I believe that we would have to note that. Victoria, I think what David's saying is since the building is right on the property line. And if you put anything on the side of the building, obviously you don't want to encroach into the next property. But if for some reason down the road that adjacent property decide to build a building similar to what you're doing, now it kind of changes the game, because now you have windows that won't comply with the fire code. So I'm just saying that there could be a future change that might disrupt somebody else's proposal. So we're kind of sensitive to what's going to be mounted on the south side of your building, or, you know.
Well, the south side is more constrained anyways because of the sewer easement. There's a much smaller area, a much tighter development area. Plus there'll be a central Hudson transformer smack dead in the middle of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, we had talked at the last meeting about, you know, what would happen if these windows were covered, and Warren can address it, but I believe it would be a non-issue.
I believe it's unlikely that it's going to happen because of the sewer easement as well. Would create a very tiny, small angled building. But I think there should be a note on the plan saying that the applicant agrees that they may have to remove those windows if and when a building was to be constructed on the property immediately to the south. And the other issue is that there's an overhang of the eave, which appears to be onto the Frontier property. So that's going to have to be dealt with. You can't actually have your eave overhang the property line.
That's correct.
So you're going to have to move the building 8 inches or so to the north, I think, in order, or figure out a different architectural way to deal with it. Because the brick wall is on the property line and the eave overhangs that.
Yeah, you're encroaching into that would be a negative variance.
That we'll have to take a look at that. I've had a chance to skim the letter from Tig and Bond. Could I just ask a few questions about it?
Sure, absolutely.
So item I, about the description and magnitude of each use. It sounds like the information we provided on the plan is sufficient, but I want to make sure that you're not looking for something more than that.
I guess it was moving forward. You know, we weren't totally sure whether option 1 or option 2 was the preferred route. And as John mentioned previously, if you did go with a restaurant space, that would definitely change with respect to grease trap or parking requirements. So we're just looking for, I guess, a more clearly defined commercial direction for the use of this property.
So, I mean, I know you weren't involved in the beginning, but it's intended at this point to be a flexible space. And then if a restaurant is ever proposed, they have to come back in anyways for a special use permit. And so we wanted to show that we had that flexibility in parking.
Sure.
And that there would be adequate space, but we understand there's additional approval required if a restaurant is proposed.
Okay, noted.
As far as you have an item. Oh, sorry.
One other note that depending on when that happens, the parking regulations could change. You know, so we're not fixed in terms of approving parking for something that hasn't been proposed yet.
Right.
Right.
And make sure that that's clearly understood on the plans.
When a business opens, they will have to come to the planning board and we'll figure it out at that point. But,
I was unclear. It says lands now are formerly of Peter Greenoff and Christine Bates. Please provide communication from applicant to owner stating intended modification to property. As far as I know, we're not intending to modify their property. Do you know what that pertains to?
Yes, so the letter that was provided mentioned the request to actually remove the tree And we were looking for just communications that the property owner was notified and whether or not they'd be willing to do so, or if limbing it up would be enough. And additionally, getting the approval from the fire department if limbing up, not just to the property line. Because when we looked at the tree, it was overhanging pretty significantly. So
Okay, so we're just going to be pruning it. So I assume that's sufficient for the board's purposes. The fire department had asked for pruning.
Victoria, you mentioned in terms of the state law allows you to prune it as long as don't threaten the tree or something along those lines?
Yes.
So we'll have some sort of statement from an arborist or somebody that the pruning that's necessary won't do that, just so that there isn't a problem later on that you killed my tree kind of thing.
I mean, I'll go. That's not something that's normally done, but I can talk to the client about doing it in this case if it's a concern.
Well, if the engineer is bringing it up as an issue, we want to address it one way or another.
Okay.
Hopefully the neighbor will agree to take it down, because it's a black walnut and it's messy and they have a yard back there. So they may be, I don't want to speak for them, but they may be happy to get rid of it.
And again, that's fine. I just don't want a situation where the planning board approved this and they killed my tree.
That makes sense. I wouldn't want to be in that position either.
Okay, so I was looking for clarification. So that's just about the tree. There were no other issues.
Correct.
Okay. And then as far as the Lions Club, Christian, where is their eyeglass drop box? I don't see it on the plan. Is it in the
vendors? I spoke to the Lions Club and we're going to arrange to move that in front of the new building.
Oh, thanks, Elijah.
I'm a member of the Lions Club, so I spoke to the president.
And on that note, Christian and Victoria, there's a number of items that aren't shown on the plans that are going to need to either be removed and replaced or removed wholesale, that we were looking to get clarification on. Just from street view, I think it's noted in how you plan to come in and out of the building off the sidewalk. I think it waxed the bench and the map of Rhinebeck there. There's a few items.
Well, we have a letter from the Chamber of Commerce already approving the plans, but we'll take a look and we'll address the other items.
Am I authorized to coordinate directly with Rob to get these comments all addressed? Because what I'll plan on doing, what we typically do when we get a consultant letter is we'll respond, item by item. And what is helpful is being able to discuss those and review those offline, so we're not taking everybody's time up and going back and forth with multiple letters. So is that something that's acceptable?
Good idea. I'm willing to go along with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay, great.
There was a letter that I can't find right now that went out from the applicant stating how the hotel is going to operate, with many possibilities about using an app on your phone to unlock the door, or having possibly someone in the lobby to let people in, or 24-hour phone numbers. Did everybody get a chance to review that letter?
Yes.
Is that okay with everybody? That's a good way.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's okay with me, as we'll hear comments from the public next month.
I'm fine with that.
I would agree that may be a model that is used in that industry going forward. So I'm good with that.
Does anyone on the planning board have any other questions? Do you feel that we are ready to proceed with the public hearing next month?
I have a couple of questions. Looking at the plans, I noticed that some of the trim work was PVC, and I just want to, is in the historic district, is PVC trim allowed on a commercial building?
Michael, the recommended facade materials include wood, brick, stone, stucco, solid PVC, or fiber cement siding and trim.
Okay.
So PVC is an
Now,
allowed
now that
material.
you now that you point that out, I will change that to wood though. I don't
Well,
go
the
PVC.
PVC, as long as it's,
Right.
good quality, it
Right.
should
I just
last a
wanted
little
to-
longer, be more maintenance free.
Right. I
So,
mean, I've used AZEC on my house and it's good stuff. I just wanted to know, we're not missing anything.
we just want to make sure, one, that it's not textured PVC,
Right.
that it's not the
The
let me try to look antique PVC.
the telephone building up the street, it's got all wood soffits over the storefront. So we'll try to continue with that instead of the PVC if we can find a material that's suitable.
Right.
And what
Or
about
again,
the
you can
fiber?
use the PVC. Again, as long as it displays the appearance of wood.
I share Mr. D's personal preference, so we'll look
Okay.
into that. Thanks.
And what about the fiberglass clad windows? Is that acceptable in the historic district?
That's not allowed in the code, but it's not specifically restricted in the code. The
Okay.
glass can't be tinted or reflective. But it doesn't really address fiberglass. It does address.
Fiberglass is not addressed, so it's not prohibited, number one.
Right.
And I think it's the equivalent of the PVC material. Or you can't do siding in plastic, but you can do trim, and as long as it has the appearance of being painted wood.
Right.
Okay.
Most importantly, we have to make sure everything's okay with the DOT because they could stop this project right in its tracks. So are we good with the DOT?
The planning board authorized circulation of this under seeker all the way back in June. Did you get any responses from any of the agencies?
I don't know, Ryan, what happened with that? Did we ever get any type of feedback at all from the DOT?
Only feedback we received is that they received the submission package and that they will review it. There was a second follow-up notification to the two DOT reps that I was directed to, and I have not received a response back.
Christian, I would just be, way on the side of caution, just because even though you're not introducing any more curb cuts, the building itself, it's going to be in the DOT right away. I would just, do you know Mike Sassy?
Yep.
Yeah, maybe reach out to him just to get the thumbs up, because we don't need them coming down halfway into the project.
Yeah.
They're also changing, right now it's one slanted, gigantic, 50-foot long driveway. Now they're going to be defining the two driveways and building up a real curb, in front of the hotel. So I would talk to them because you're going to be making, changes like that.
And then also we need some type of directional, that's going to be a one-way coming out, correct?
Yes.
So we'll need definitely some type of traffic directional.
Traffic control device of some sort, or traffic control.
Do not enter signs.
What did you add to the building next to Bun's Burger? I think it has a similar layout. Was there a one-way in, one-way out sign that was added there? Should we take a look?
Burger. Garden Street?
Yeah, on Garden Street.
Not next to
No.
Buns.
I don't recall. That's very low traffic. This would be right on Route 9, and just like the village parking lot says, do not enter, an entrance, some, not unobtrusive or, sign on do not enter and entrance, enter here or something like that on both entrances, either side of the
With
of the
Mirbu,
curb.
we did designate entrance and exit for Mirbu, I believe.
Yeah.
Off
Yeah.
of West
Yeah.
Market Street.
That's
That
the other
was-
thing. That's right. I mean, and then Christian, once you bring this to light to the DOT, they're going to probably come out and they're going to do a visual, and they may say to you only a right-hand turn only, what have you. So kind of just be prepared. They're notorious for throwing those last minute, changes in.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, like Victoria said, we are kind of operating under the assumption that they've seen this plan and we've been waiting for comments, but I agree with you, John. Well, I'll try to reach out to them just to kind of press the issue, because I was anticipating that we'd end up getting a conceptual approval letter from them.
I know.
To what we've done in the past. So
Yeah.
I'll try to push to see if we can get some sort of response from them.
Yeah, we're wrapping up a major water project, and they have 14 guys in their department, and nobody knows what the other guy's doing.
Yeah.
And so when we think it's a green light, all of a sudden 3 people chime in, and we have 4 changes. So I mean, just be careful.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions or comments?
I have a bunch. Is Michael Gay finished?
Yes.
All right. I have, I don't know, a few. One suggestion I have is the handicap spaces. There's 2 handicap spaces in the rear. They're currently on the plan striped at 9 feet wide, and they could go down to 8 feet, according to the code, as far as I know. And the aisle could be 8 feet as well, and you could save 3 feet, and that wouldn't be quite as tight a corner there, so that you could move those spaces over 3 feet. You understand what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Okay. On the table on sheet 1, the site data table, the maximum side setback is listed as 11.6 feet. I think that's wrong. I think it's closer to 17 feet or something, because the driveway itself is 15 feet. So you might correct that table. I already pointed to the eave overhang on the south side, and the note about the potential for windows on the south side. The cherry trees that are proposed out front, have you run that by the tree committee?
Not yet.
Yeah, they will want to chime in on, your species choice. And I'm fine with cherry trees. I think there's wires on that side, so you can't go too high, but I would suggest that a 5 to 6 foot planting height is pretty tiny, especially on Route 9. Where there's a lot of traffic and everything. I would prefer something more in the 6 to 8 foot range in terms of height as a starting thing to be better established. 5 to 6 feet is a pretty twiggy sort of tree.
Can the board refer it to the tree commission, or is that something?
No, Victoria, what I'll do is, instead of you guys chasing down the tree commission, Ryan, why don't you zoom in on that section and forward that to Meg Crawford for comment.
And what they'll typically do is give you a selection of tree species to put in and a recommended caliper.
Okay.
For the trees.
Right.
That makes it easy.
So Ryan, you got that?
Yes.
In terms of the location of those trees, I think I mentioned this the last time you were here, that I think it's nice to put 2 trees in front of the building. I'm very supportive of that, but it seems to me they would be better located if they were to the south somewhat onto the frontage of the Frontier property, perhaps flanking, so that way you would have better sight distance coming out of that one-way driveway. You wouldn't have a tree right in front of you. So my suggestion is both of these are on the public right-of-way. They're not on the Frontier property. So it seems to me you could negotiate with the city to move, or to the village to move those to the south a bit, so that there isn't an obstruction of sight line coming out of that driveway.
So add one,
Just take both trees and
yeah, and move the southerly one just to the south of the Chamber of Commerce sidewalk possibly, so we're not right in front of that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
sort of flanking that as opposed to being
Yeah,
too close
that
to
makes
that
sense.
northern driveway.
Yeah, I'm sure the DOT is going to object to the north tree blocking the sight lines. They
If you
definitely
move
will.
them both south.
We'll
slide them
both of them
both south.
south.
And on sheet C3, the number of lighting fixtures is listed as 2. And I think there's somewhere more like 6 lighting fixtures. You have, you have 3 or 4 on the north side of the building and 3 on the ends of the building. So that listing on the near the light fixtures needs to be corrected.
I think that means number of lights within the fixture, right?
Yes, that's what that's referring to, but I'll make it more clear.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that there was 1 light in there and that was just sort of a distortion of the lens. Okay. In terms of the architecture,
So just quickly, John, we also want that designated in terms of lumens
yes.
out of the light fixture rather than,
Right.
so that we don't have to keep track of bulbs.
Got that.
In terms of the architecture, the brick that's on the front of the building, is that dimensional brick or is that thin brick?
I think it could be either at this point. We have the depth. We could create, a full brick facade.
I think that would be preferable than the thin brick, just because I think it
Sure.
holds up better over time. And you don't
Okay.
have the awkward corners to deal with. We
Right.
dealt with the trim. On the windows, are those exterior muntins?
Yes, they would be permanently adhered to the exterior.
So that should be specified on the plan.
Okay.
Windows aren't discussed on the notes.
Okay.
I think all the rest of them, and I think we covered the front walkways to the 2 doors are not shown on the plans. And the disposition of a bench, I think, is important, whether that's staying or going or whatever. Those are my notes.
Does anyone else have any other questions or comments?
Yeah, the bench is kind of an important component in terms of that tends to be where the loop bus, I think, stops in the village currently.
We will leave the bench or a bench like it there.
Isn't it in memory of somebody? So you don't want to move it maybe?
I think it belongs to the village actually, so
Okay.
we won't touch it if it's not ours.
And one other point I forgot was there's parking spaces out there currently. I think they should be striped on the plan or shown on the plan so that we can get an idea of where they're going to be and how that's going to affect visibility coming out of that driveway.
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess they're not striped in the village, but there should be at least some striping on the pavement or a yellow curb line or something to prevent people from parking too close to that northern driveway.
Or signage or something that controls the parking.
Yeah, so the village will have to think about that.
like John Fenton, like we have the, no parking from here to corner.
Right.
Right, that's usually a resolution that the board makes, the village board.
Yes, but they could make a proposal on the plan and then the village board could endorse it or not.
I know, but the planning board, you guys would have to make the request to the village board.
Okay.
I think we can show the spaces for planning purposes. And then once this is under construction, the village can decide whether they want to, put a sign up or color the curb yellow.
Or DOT may decide what they require to be able to have the.
Yeah, if I could show striping, especially in front of that exit there, just to delineate that you shouldn't be parking there.
Yeah.
And that could be something that's handled with the DOT permit.
Right, because DOT might have comments about, there are now technically 2 parking spots in front of the hub. Once there is actually a physical curb and 2, actual driveways. If 2 large vehicles park there and someone's coming out of the parking lot, they might have a difficulty seeing around those vehicles. If the cars coming. So maybe the village board or DOT might want no parking on those 2 spots.
Well, that's what's going to happen, the visibility.
Visibility. The trees plus large vehicles or a delivery truck or something.
Right, that's what just came to mind in terms of deliveries. The delivery trucks tend to pull up there now. So there may be a need to somehow restrict the parking or standing of delivery trucks that might block the visibility.
So these are all good suggestions, but we can't control
No, we understand.
DOT.
No,
So
but
I think we need to make the application and then we can.
See what DOT says. They had a lot of comments about the farm project, about sight lines and trees, and we did the farm project in the old
Farm market. Have you seen it? It's under construction.
Yes, I see digging over there finally.
Lots of work going on there.
So anyone else have any questions? And does the board feel comfortable that we're ready to open a public hearing and begin to get input from the public next month? That seem okay with everybody?
I think it makes sense at this point.
I think, yeah, definitely.
All right, Ryan, then why don't you send, post this for October and get it out to the public, and then we'll have to figure out, I guess just like letting applicants in, we'll let in people one at a time. And we'll talk about this, having a register for it, but we won't let people comment or raise their hands or register for it at the meeting if they want to make a comment on something they hear.
And just to be,
Which meeting are you scheduling the hearing for?
I was just about to ask that. Just to be clear for all those listening, October 6th.
Okay.
First Tuesday, and October 20th is the 3rd Tuesday. So are we going with October 6th?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why.
Why not?
Is the applicant going to be prepared to address the public on October 6th?
We will be.
Okay, then there's no reason to delay it then.
Now, I just want to confirm, so the other interested parties, DOT, the county, Ryan, just confirmed, so that had been sent out originally when the application first came on, is that correct?
That is correct. And we've heard from the county, and it is a matter of local concern.
Can you circulate that finding to all the planning board members so the record is straight?
I sure can, yes.
All right, and then for clarity, Christian, you're just going to double check with the DOT.
Yes, yep.
Yeah. Well, as I said, at least we get started on the 6th, and if there are questions or issues that come up or things that aren't clear, we can always continue the public hearing to the next
meeting. Leave it open to the next meeting.
Yeah, so it's not a problem. It would be good to get started and get input from the public.
And the village is going to take charge or control of sending out the notices and publishing it in the paper, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Ryan does that. And you have to be prepared to make a PowerPoint presentation, zooming in on each slide to show the public who's never seen this before exactly what you're doing, because we'll be starting from scratch with the public.
From scratch with what we've already come up. We don't have to go back in history.
Right.
It's kind of what the current plan is.
Right. Just to show these current set of plans, with the drawings, with the pictures, what it's going to look like, and just make a PowerPoint, like Warren's PowerPoint here, and then we'll open the public hearing and we'll get input from the public.
I assume the hub is in honor of the hub garage that used to be there?
That is where the name was taken from. That's actually not the name of the project, but we wanted to show something in the signboard above the retail window. So it seemed to be an appropriate placeholder, if you will, for the ultimate name.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? And we can, all right, well, thank you, everybody, for your hard work.
Thank you all.
We'll
Thank
see
you.
you next month. And we'll
Yeah, October 6th.
all right,
Do you need a motion to schedule the hearing?
Yeah, I think we should have a motion.
okay.
I'll move to schedule the public hearing.
Do we have a
October
second?
6th.
For purposes of seeker and site plan review.
Do we have a second?
I'll
I'll
second that.
Who's that? Michael Gee?
Mike Gee.
A roll call vote by name. Michael Gee,
Yes.
Mary Quinn,
Yes.
John Clark,
Aye.
Tim Decker,
Yes.
David Miller, yes. Okay, thank you.
All right, so
Bye,
motion
thank you.
Thank you,
passes.
Craig. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, everyone.
See you next month.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, the next item on the agenda is continuation of 47 West Market Street. And I believe that this should, John Fenton, there's too many Johns. John Fenton went over there, measured the building, and I believe we have actual clarification of the square footage now.
Yes. Speaking to the property manager, Ty and Bond is going to scale down their primary sign. And with that being done, it also Grady. So Grady's primary sign is going to, oh, here it is. So the Grady's sign will stay the same, 6 square feet. Now the door decal, that's the one that's going to be scaled down. And the Ty and Bond sign will be scaled down. And so then it leaves another tenant 6 square feet, and that would absorb the entire 30 allowed square feet of the entire building.
And if you go back to the application, where it says maximum signage allowed, should that say 30 square feet rather than 55.5?
Yes,
Just so there's
We
no
can-
confusion later on.
absolutely. Yep. So again, so just nothing really changes other than the size. Grady CPA, the only real change is they're taking their door decal and then they're scaling that down. And other than that, everything's okay.
Good.
Good.
You know, that's what we
Thanks
were
for
looking for.
going out there.
Right, just making sure that it all fit within the allocation for the building. I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll
I'll
second
second.
that.
Roll call vote. Michael Gee,
Yes.
Mary Quinn,
Yes.
John Clark,
Yes.
Tim Decker,
Yes.
David Miller, yes. It's approved. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank
you very much.
The last item on the agenda is a new business. Marla Walker Interiors, 18 East Market
Hello.
Street.
Maria.
It's Marla,
Oh, it's Marla. Okay.
Yeah.
I heard it
not
wrong.
Maria. I get that a lot, but it's
And
definitely,
you're going, is this on the first floor upstairs?
it's upstairs. Yep, it's an office. 2nd floor.
And so the sign is going to be hanging. That's a lot of calculations.
It's a lot going on there. Yeah, on that building.
And so it'll be hanging on the sign next to
Gregory Barker.
Gregory Barker. On the
It's
existing,
previously where Kale Communications had a sign, actually.
right.
She moved out, so.
So Marla, I just want to give you some advice. At some point, probably in the spring, Ryan and I are actually going to go down the block and make sure that none of these signs are less than 7 feet off the sidewalk.
Okay.
So I just want to let you know ahead of time because there are plenty of signs that are going to have to be adjusted and moved up.
Okay.
And we do plan on taking that task on this spring.
Nice. Well, I'll just make sure it's when they hang it. I don't think it would be, actually.
No,
I know. Yeah.
Timely Signs is doing this, and Paul knows the rules.
Okay.
So I don't think that'll be a problem. And we have the letter from the property manager.
Is it
Yeah.
time for John Clark to make a suggestion in terms of the background color?
You don't like white?
My suggestion is, and that you can take it or leave it, I always make, because what we have found is when people use bright white as the background, the sign looks temporary.
Oh,
And so I always suggest that it's better that if you do a little off-white, so it doesn't look like a piece of paper out there, you know?
yeah.
So that's a suggestion. Just put a little creaminess into it. It actually gives it a little more color, and it doesn't look
Okay.
like a temporary paper sign.
It also
Right,
doesn't
okay,
show
thank
dirt
you.
quite as quickly.
Yes.
Think about it.
All right, I will think about it. I will take it into serious consideration. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Well, do we have a motion to approve the sign?
I'll
Motion-
make that. Go ahead.
It's hard to do this virtually. Mary and John, who goes first? Ladies first. Mary made the motion.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Mary Quinn,
Yes.
Michael Gee,
Yes.
John Clark,
Aye.
Tim Decker,
Yes.
David Miller, yes. Good luck with your
Thank
business.
you.
And thank you.
Thank you, Marla.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Well,
That was very interesting. I listened to the whole meeting, so I learned a lot.
Good.
We're available Tuesday nights on the first and third Tuesdays every month for your entertainment.
All right, we'll see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, thanks.
Good night.
So we had minutes from August 4th. I looked them over, and I guess everybody has their own way of speaking or writing. And I think it gets the point across unless somebody had some gross,
No, I made the points. Yeah.
it makes the points.
Yes.
Anybody have any
Make
problem?
a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it. All those in favor, we can do this by just voice vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Any other questions or comments about what's going on? Okay. Do we have a motion?
We have a deadline for the funeral home to paint their unpainted wood.
Yeah, Ryan and I looked into it. Ryan, what was, I think we gave them until their permit expires?
It was
Correct me if I'm
either
wrong.
till their permit expires, they had come in for a roof replacement permit. So once they notify me that they've either started or completed that project, I'm going to inform them that they need to correct and complete the painting of all the wood railings and banisters and things like that.
All the exterior,
Right.
even the staircase going
The staircase and also the railing in the back
back.
on the
Right.
second floor.
Right, yeah, so a certificate of compliance hadn't been issued as of yet.
Right.
But they won't be able to get one until they paint.
Okay.
It's going to be getting cold soon, so they need to get it painted before the winter.
That is a problem corner area. I don't know if it's because David Miller lives there, but I think I noticed that the Brogan Center has a great big for sale sign now up on the fence again.
Yes.
That is bigger than what
Yeah,
it allows.
Yeah.
Am I mistaken on that?
I
No,
would
I
have
read
to
that-
yield to the zoning officer on that one.
well, I mean, the law has been suspended.
Well, I don't think it's been suspended for that purpose.
Is
I
it
thought it
suspended?
was suspended for the purpose of retail business.
No, I mean, that whole section has been suspended. I mean, if it's one, it's all. I'm not saying the place is going to look like Las Vegas, but I don't know. You can't be selective enforcement. You get into some hot water if you start doing that.
So if I want to put up a great big for sale sign in my front yard, it
Right
doesn't.
now with the law suspended, yeah.
I didn't realize the law was suspended. I thought that they just relaxed it in the business district.
No, we actually had to formally submit all the zoning provisions that could potentially hurt businesses and send them to the county. Every single municipality in Dutchess County submitted a list of zoning laws, and then the county executive wind up approving the suspension. It was pretty formal. It was a process that took about 2 weeks.
And it included real estate signs. Okay.
Honestly, Tim, I think it included almost everything, the entire sign law. Not the whole chapter, but quite a bit. So, I mean, if the sign winds up basically, causing somebody potential hazard, like if it's waving in the wind or if it's blocking a pedestrian walkway, what have you, then, and it becomes a safety issue, then definitely it could be addressed.
That all gets suspended on November 1st, or is there a deadline?
I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a deadline as of right now. The only thing
I read someplace that there was
maybe
a sunset.
That's entirely up to the village board.
November 15th, the snow ordinance goes into effect. No parking on the streets. All the bollards have to go. All the umbrellas have to go. So I'm assuming at that point we will go back to normal. I don't know what's going to happen to the restaurants, whether you would, someone said on the business news this morning, I would invest in a company that makes exterior heaters because, the Foster's and the Beekman Homes might want to be putting in heaters, out on the grass in the parking lot there to keep people.
Oh yeah, there's challenges every week. Every week there's a new challenge. I mean, right now we're dealing with portable heaters underneath tents, and then we have to revisit the fire code, and these tents have to be fire retardant, and and there has to be certifications proving that. And, there's a lot behind the scenes.
Picky.
And if you put plastic all around the tents, you now create an indoor dining.
Well, I mean, Tim, listen, I'm on board with you. I mean, it's going to be, my job is going to be terrible once this thing gets.
Again, I only brought it up because my understanding was that the changes were geared towards the retail businesses in the village, not to real estate sales.
I know.
We already went through this once with the real estate person on that property.
I know that well because I took the sign. I mean, once that law is suspended, it's suspended, and unfortunately, that particular usage of her sign falls into the one section that had been suspended.
Well, I'm sure it will bring on dozens of buyers.
The other thing I wanted to mention to you, Ryan, was don't feel obligated to, this meeting isn't open to the public. So, don't feel obligated to, I mean, if you're doing it out of courtesy, that's fine. But I don't know. Questions popping up randomly. Is that approved?
Popping up, that's why I said for all of you who are watching, we will have a public hearing next month if everything goes well, and you'll be invited. We have to work out how to do that. Do you want people? How do we do the yellow sign-in pad? Do you want people to click on, send out, if they send you an email, I want to talk, but then if they hear something and they want to make a question, you can, there are many ways to do it. You can,
a public hearing.
I raise my hand, Ryan sees my hand, when I raise my hand, but, you know, nobody else does.
It also depends on how many people are out there, because it's virtually impossible if there are 50 people out there to keep track of whose hand goes up when.
I know, you have to, so we want, it's the first time we might have an actual real public hearing with a lot of people. We have to figure out a way to register in advance, or send Ryan an email, or chat, send Ryan a chat note and say, put me on the list, I'd like to speak next. Some way for him to be able to turn on the mic and then say, well, thank you very much. And then turn off the mic and say, and now we have John Smith who would like to speak. Ryan, turn on his mic. Thank you, Mr. Smith, and turn off the mic. We're gonna have to, we'll figure it out.
So David, one of the things we might want to consider is see if there's anybody with the village who can just keep track of the questions, or people from, because Ryan's doing a bunch of other things. So if we had somebody who was just keeping the list of people who want to ask questions or make comments.
Yeah, good idea. Who would that be?
Mary Quinn. No.
But I mean, yeah, I think it should be somebody who's not on the board. But I don't
know. We'll have to talk about it next week when we have.
That's why there's a chair of the planning board to
Yes,
work out
sir.
these complicated issues.
I will. That's why I just brought it up. I will take care of it.
He's got a wife who's might be willing to for a fee.
Just to be
So the
clear,
funeral-
the meeting is open to the public, but the public can't comment until there is a public hearing.
Right. You can watch. You're always welcome to watch. But, you know, it's odd because we're doing it on Zoom. You know, usually, you know, if a bunch of people are in the audience, say we're going to have a public hearing next week, and some public says, may I ask a question? We always say, well, it's not a public hearing, but okay, we'll let you ask.
We haven't been strictly enforcing it has to be a public hearing.
But it could be a chaos on Zoom, so we can't be that flexible.
Or maybe there won't be the level of controversy that will make it that difficult.
That 50 people want to speak.
Right.
But just to be clear again, the planning board can see the chat. So if you want to admit questions or comments, we will see them online, even though we're not obligated to discuss them at that point until the public hearing.
And if someone makes a chat question at some point, I could say, you know, well, John Smith wants to know from the applicant, how are they doing this or that? And then we can, you know, Victoria or Christian can respond. So it'll be a little shaky, but we'll figure it out.
Actually, the chat questions go in chronological order.
Right.
So
we don't lose track of them. Chat is doing what you just said. It's making a list.
The first chat to the last chat. But we just have to. One of the things you'll want to do, David, is determine how long you're going to wait for somebody to come on and ask their question if they have it, because people tend to come and go.
Right.
Sometimes.
And my primary concern was, you know, I didn't want Ryan to get caught up in conversation when Ryan right now is taking care of all the minutes.
Right.
And I mean, and if he's being sidetracked by questions, and who's doing the minutes?
So do we have somebody else who can monitor the chat?
I mean, he does a good job.
We can see the chat. We don't have to respond to the chat.
Right, but it would be helpful to have somebody monitoring it.
Yeah.
I just have my iPhone, so it's like I don't see the whole thing. So
do you have control over that, Ryan?
Yes, I do. If for any reason a participant was to escalate anything, they can be muted, or even I can remove
They
them
can be expelled from the
meeting.
Yes.
And would have to be dealt with afterwards.
Though we probably have to be careful with that in terms of the legal aspect, in terms of expelling somebody from the meeting.
I think we have a lawyer who's raised her hand.
Yeah, I think I see an attorney out there with a mute on.
Oh, well, if you don't mind, I was just going to add that in most of the communities where I'm doing this, they've ended up getting a dedicated person to come to the meeting just to do the public hearings and, the IT stuff so that everyone else can focus on the application. So whether it's, a volunteer village board member or a volunteer community member, it's someone that you trust to assist.
Right.
That is a
kind of what I
short
was trying to
list.
allude to.
That is a short list.
We'll have to
Tell
talk.
you
Any
that.
friends, Ryan, that aren't busy on Tuesday, October 6th?
Possibly, Tim. I'll have to look at my little black book and I'll find out
No,
if
because
anyone.
we attend, I think Tim and I both attended a seminar, training seminar, and I think 300 people watched it, and they said, we'll take questions at the end. And then the chats were going, and then someone was monitoring it, and then the person came on at the end and said, well, 12 people want to know what happens if this happens.
Right.
And 9 people want to know, what do you do if this happens? So she was keeping track and then summarizing. So you didn't answer 150 questions, you answered 10, because a lot of people asked the same question. But I don't think we'll have that problem. We want to do it in real time, or we could do it at the end, look at the chats, but I don't know. We'll everybody think about it over the weekend. We have to have a pre-meet. Is October 6th in 2 weeks or 3 weeks? September's a short month, isn't it?
30 days has September, April, June, and November.
I know, so September.
Only 1 day shorter though, David, so.
I know that, but I mean.
We got
It's
3 weeks.
2.5
3
weeks. Two
So
and a
it's
half
3
weeks.
weeks.
Right.
Okay, so we didn't have to, so we have a whole week. We don't have to have our pre-meeting for another week after, following Monday from this Monday.
Yes.
The good
3
news
weeks.
is I think we've worked out a lot of the sticky stuff in terms of the site. And I'm not sure that there's going to be a level of controversy in terms of questions.
No, but there'll be things like, who needs another hotel? It's going to be a big building in the village. It's
Right,
like, I'm
and
sorry,
I
but
think we
it's
should be
perfectly
prepared
legal.
to answer to the fact that the planning board does not have jurisdiction in terms of necessarily denying the opportunity of people to operate a business.
Right. If it's in the code,
There could be 20 bakeries in the village of Rhinebeck, and we
Right.
could only need 2, but those 18 people have a right to operate a bakery.
We had that time on West Market Street, some landlord opened 2 haircutters.
Right.
Hair salons in the same building. They were saying,
Right.
how can the planning board let that happen? And we said, hey, talk to your landlord. What do we got to do with that?
Right.
We don't regulate businesses. If it's in the book, it's in the book. It's legal. But I don't think they're going to
be successful. They have a right to fail.
Yes, and I don't think that we have hit anything, that we've missed anything that isn't already, been answered by lawyers and architects and engineers. I don't think any major
And
things
attorneys.
by the public. You may not have very many people asking questions about this. It's not like it's in the middle of the residential district. It's a business on Route 9. I don't think a lot of people, and we actually do need more hotel space because we have a lot of visitors with no place to stay. So.
I see it now, the David Miller Barn Complex. You make your brick barn into a little hotel, David.
Because I've heard that.
Business district.
I've heard that the county is putting pressure on Elizabeth and Gary that guys have to find. We need more spaces, people to stay when they come to visit. Tourism is our business, et cetera, et cetera. And so they are encouraging more places for people to stay.
Like back when you encouraged industrial development because of IBM. Yeah.
Right.
I wasn't here at the time. I was safely in Brooklyn. All right, any other questions?
Right, so the funeral home knows that it needs to paint. You're not waiting to tell them they need to paint until their permit is expired, right?
No.
So they can't come back with, well, the snow's flying, so,
We can't
okay.
wait till the spring.
No, I have this thing that's pretty powerful. It's called the issuance of a certificate of compliance. And without having that, you can virtually get in trouble. So No, I'm not worried about that, Mary. I just have to, the thing is this, I could hold their C of O until they do it, but I got to give them the amount of time they need.
Right, but they know they need to paint, but
Yes, they know.
Okay.
They know.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. So we'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You have a second? I'll make a second. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Have a good couple of weeks, everybody. Stay safe.
Okay, you too.